In Heart of Thorns, we got the first Guardian elite specialization, and that is the Dragonhunter. And although I really don't care for the Dragonhunter name, the elite specialization overall is really simple and easy to use, and is highly effective as a damage spec. Now, my buddy gave me a Dragonhunter build that I've been using for years now, and it's just kind of a go-to build for my Guardian because, again, how simple and effective it is in all forms of PvE content. So today, we're going to go over that Dragonhunter build. But before we do, if this is your first time with the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. We're going to be doing a lot of Guild Wars on this channel. But alright, let's get started. Now, this is how the video is going to break down, so there will be timestamps below if you want to jump to any section, but let's first start off with the trait section. Now, starting off with the trait section here, we're going to start from the bottom. When you unlock the elite specialization Dragonhunter for your Guardian, it's going to alter your F ability. So we're going to get Spear of Justice, we're going to get Wings of Resolve, and we're going to get Shield of Courage. Mostly this build is going to revolve around the Spear of Justice, and you'll see why as soon as we get to the end there. But for your first choice here, I'm just going with Hunter's Premonition. We're just going to get Aegis every time we use our trap. And remember, Aegis is just like a 100% block chance and then it goes away. So this is going to be some nice survivability. We also get Defender's Dogma. This is going to reduce the cooldown on our Spear of Justice, that's okay to have. Zealot's Aggression here. Every time we're hitting an enemy that is crippled, we're going to get a 10% damage boost. This is really good to have. Some other ones you could choose here is Hunter's Determination if you feel like you need another stun break. A lot of freedom in this line. Also in the first trait line, something I like to switch between other than Hunter's Premonition is Soaring Devastation. This is going to increase our movement speed. Wings of Resolve here, kind of like a leap ability, so helps you get around, a little bit of mobility. We also get Pure of Sight. So every time, or just depending on the enemy's distance from us, we're going to at least be getting a 7% damage boost. This is mostly a melee build, but this is going to have a range option, which if we're at the maximum distance, it's going to be 15%. Just more damage, that's always a good thing. Now for the last trait line here, really big game Hunter. This is probably kind of like the staple of the build because every time we throw our spear into a target, we're going to be tethered to them. As long as you're tethered to them and you're striking that enemy, it's a 25% damage boost. That is huge, and it's really easy and simple to use, which is why I love this build. Perfect for returning or new players if you just want to do big damage and not really mess around with too much. Just kind of like a simple rotation. But that is our Dragonhunter line. Now moving up to our next trait line, we're going to be taking Zeal, which is going to be basically synergizing with all the symbols we can be putting down. So we're going to get Lesser Symbol of Resolution. For our first choice here, Fiery Wrath, because we're going to be applying that burn effect to enemies. So just a flat 5% damage bonus, which is great. We're also going to get Symbolic Exposure. We're going to be putting a lot of vulnerability stacks on the enemy. So again, another 5%. The main weapon we're going to be using is a Greatsword. So that's why we're taking Zealous Blade. And we also get Symbolic Avenger. Again, symbols and more damage. It's going to stack up to 5 times, which again, another 5% damage. For our last choice with this trait line here, we're going with Furious Focus. So every time we have Fury, we're going to get a little bit of benefit from our symbols as well. So a lot of synergies with the symbols we're going to be using with this build. Now the last trait line we're going to be focusing on is Radiance, and this is really going to synergize with that Resolution boon and then our crit chance. So that's why we're picking this line. Also, they get a very fun feature that's going to synergize with our F1 ability. But first thing we get here is Justice is Blind. For your first choice, I would go with Healer's Resolution. Again, we want that Resolution boon on us. Then we get Renewed Justice. This is what's going to synergize with our F1 ability. Remember, that's our spear and our tether. So the gameplay loop, just really quickly here, you throw your spear into a target. Remember all the buffs and damage we're getting into it. So you're going to melt that target. We then automatically get our spear back to then go to the next target. This is beautiful synergy for the open world and just doing fractals and stuff like that. Love this little feature here. We're also going to get Retribution while we have Resolution, another 10% damage boost. We also then get Radiant Power here, which is just a nice little bump in damage. But for our last line here, Righteous Instincts. So every time we have resolution, our crit chance is going to increase, really helping us, score those big hits. So those are our 3 trait lines. Let's now move on to the next section. Now, really quick, our armor and stats section here. We want damage, and there's no better set than Berserkers. It has power, precision, and ferocity. Ferocity? That's not a word. Ferocity. This is what you want to target for your stats. You can also use something like Assassins, but again, Big damage. For your rune set here, I'm going with the Dragonhunter. Thankfully, it synergizes with the elite specialization that we're going for. Now, other than your stats there, the rune I'm going with is also the Dragonhunter rune. Just more damage, essentially. The weapons we're going to be using, of course, is going to be the greatsword and then also a longbow. Now, these, as far as the sigils are concerned, something like force, accuracy, there's a lightning one as well. Those are all going to be really good. You'll even notice I only have a major sigil of force on there, which is a 3% damage boost instead of the full 5, so I'm missing out on 2% damage. Damn, I'm really going to be feeling that 2% damage. Anyways, now for our weapons, of course, we just talked about we're using the greatsword and the longbow. General rotation here for the greatsword is you want to open up with your 4, then move into your 3, and then use your 2 to basically whirl around. Of course, we're not talking about throwing the spear at them just yet, but again, simple rotation for your greatsword here is always just your symbol of resolution, then use your leap of faith, and most importantly here is whirling wrath. This is where most of your damage is going to come from. You can use your binding blade as well, but again, I would just make sure you always prioritize that 4, 3, and 2. Now our other weapon, the longbow, you kind of want to set things up. So we have our symbol of energy that you can shoot at an enemy there, and then I would follow up with a true shot. True shot does a lot of damage, but also has a very short cooldown as well. If you need a little bit of CC or stun break, or I'm sorry, it's called Defiance Bar break. I'm used to other MMOs. We have Hunter's Ward here as well, which can be a nice way again to add on and do your part as far as breaking a Defiance Bar. It does a decent bit of damage as well, but main focus here for me is always just using your 4 and then your true shot. Big damage. Not a lot of things in the open world are going to survive that. Now let's move on to our utility skills. I had to move my spot because I got attacked while I was there, while I was yapping. Very rude. For our heal skill, we're going to be using Litany of Wrath. So every time we pop this and we do damage, it's going to then heal us, kind of like a leeching ability. But also because of the traits we chose, we're going to be getting resolution. And remember all the synergies we're getting off of having this boon. So this is kind of an offensive option. Now, other than that, we're taking Procession of Blades, which is a trap, and when it activates, it's going to help out with our crit chance and also do a chunky bit of damage. That's going to work pretty well here with Sword of Justice. This is a spirit weapon that we throw down, and the big thing about the Sword of Justice here are those vulnerability stacks, and then that cripple. That cripple synergizes with the Dragonhunter trait line, one of the traits that we chose there. For our last skill here, Bane Signet, passively, just giving us more power, but also if we activate it, it's a big chunky hit to the Defiance break bar. So you'll be doing your part. Love having this one on. If you feel like you need some stun break utility options, I mean, stand your ground. This is always good for a stun break because right now our only stun break is Shield of Courage, which is our F3. And this is kind of like a cone in front of you, but I think this is really good survivability, so I don't think we need too many stun breaks for this build here because of how much damage we're going to be doing. Now for our elite skill, got a couple options here, but I've been using Dragon's Maw. This is our trap. This is a bunch of damage, and then also what's not listed here is this also helps out with that Defiance Bar break. I think it's only 150, but still. Really good elite skill here. The only other elite skill that I like messing around with is Feel My Wrath. This is a shout, and it's going to give you quickness, which is just kind of universally good. But that's the skills, the utility skills out of the way. Let's move on to the kind of like gameplay and overview section. Now for the gameplay section, I think there's no better place to come to than the aerodrome here in Lion's Arch. And we're going to go test out our damage against one of the goblins. Goblins? It's a golem. That's right. For this section here, you get a lot of raw footage. But we're going to fly over here. And we're going to spawn ourselves one of the weaker golems because I don't want to be here all day, essentially. So we're going to spawn our golem, average, the weakest health. That's fine. Spawn the golem. Now, we're also going to be putting on all of the boons for ourselves. And this is mainly because when you're in group content, if you have a competent party, group, convergences, squad, whatever you want to call it, boons are really easy to come by. So if you don't have all these boons up at once, you really should be looking at your other party members. Now, admittedly, we're kind of a selfish player here. We're not really spreading a lot of boons, but we do some things as far as just damage. We're just here for damage. Now, for the opener here, we're going to be throwing our Spear of Justice, making sure this is up on this target at all times. Very important. Again, that 25% damage boost. Other than that, we want to be like setting up our Whirling Wrath. So the way we're going to do that is, of course, just the rotation we talked about, but also using our Sword of Justice, our Procession of Blades, and then our Dragon's Maul. Just use those basically off cooldown as often as possible, especially Sword of Justice here because of those vulnerability stacks. So the benchmark I'm setting for myself, and usually when it comes to a damage build, I want to be doing above 20k damage. Now, to, I would say, veteran players, they're going to be like, that's not enough damage. But honestly, guys, if you've ever seen the numbers of other players and groups in this game, you'll know that 20k damage is, I'd say it's pretty good, actually, compared to the average players. So that's just kind of what I set for myself. And I'm only going to be staying on the Greatsword because of how this is just going to show how easy this build is. So let's open up with our Spear. We're going to run in there. We're going to drop both of these. Put down our Symbol, 3, and then Whirling Wrath. Ooh. A lot of damage, and we'll go over the numbers as far as how fast we're doing all this damage at the end there. But sticking with our rotation, we kind of want to wait for that other spear, but not a big deal. Throw our spear into them again. And remember, we're just using all this off cooldown as soon as it comes up. Alacrity and quickness are the biggest helpers, and this is not one of those builds for. We're also going to use our 5 as well. A little bit of passive damage. Perfect. Now, throw our spear, and again, another Whirling Wrath. Very simple. How did we do? Kind of tells us right over there. 26k. Killed it in 38 seconds. Not bad in my opinion. Kind of the benchmark I set for myself when it comes to a damage build. And yeah, that was pretty good. Alright y'all, that is the build, that is the video. Remember, this is more so for new and returning players. If you have a Guardian and you just want to do a lot of kind of stupid damage without a lot of like brain power, Dragonhunter is kind of perfect for that, really. The main thing is just make sure you got your spear in them and then setting up Whirling Wrath. That's kind of it. There's a lot of flexibility if you feel like you need more survivability or stun breaks. Again, you can swap out any of these for that. You have plenty of Defiance Bar break with Bane Signet here. This is a big chunky one. So yeah, you're going to be doing your part, and this is just kind of just a staple, just kind of brain dead, really easy to play, and that's kind of why I like it. Other than that, guys, that is it for the video. If you've made this far, I appreciate the hell out of you, and yeah, may the 6 watch over you.